Hi guys, my name is Sean. I'm a houseplant enthusiast from Jakarta, Indonesia. In this episode, I'm going to be showing you how I water over 1,000 plants in my tiny home. There are a lot of different environments around the house and obviously very different species of plants. So there's different styles and methods to water different sections and different plants, obviously. And it is worth noting that it is a Sunday. Normally between Monday to Saturdays, there's a caretaker that comes in and water these plants. And it typically takes around 2 hours a day to water everything here. So by the time we get done filming, it'll be probably 3 to 4 hours. But of course, this video is going to be fully edited, so you don't have to bear the entire brunt of the process. But just keep in mind that my care routine here is that I water my plants every day. I heavily amend the soil so that by the next day, the plant will be bone dry so we could water it again. Of course, there are some plants that might have retained some water from the day before, so we got to keep that in mind as well. And the number one tip before you water anything is to check the weather. Because if it's sunny like today, it's actually super sunny, super hot out, and you want to feel the ambient humidity around you in the house to get a feel of how heavily you want to water the plant. Because throughout the day, the water is going to be absorbed by the plant, and when it's a bright day, when it's a hot day, the plant is going to take in more water or the soil is going to dry out a bit faster, so you want to water more liberally. So today is one of those days where it is going to be a hot day. However, this is actually around 11 a.m. so I got to keep that in mind as well, because the best time to water the plant is around 6 to 8 a.m. when the plant has a whole day to photosynthesize and use up all that water. Also, the stomata of the leaves are most open in that earlier part of the day rather than in midday like now. So when you water in midday like this, some of the water droplets might get magnified by the sun rays, and that might actually burn the leaves. The stomata might have been closed up a bit because it is so hot out, so the plant is protecting itself from the intense sunlight. So when we apply foliar spray, which we will talk about in another full episode, that is when you introduce nutrients to the leaf surface, which we might do for some of the plants here. It is best to do it in the morning or late evening. But we've got to get cracking because we do need daylight to film, so this is the best time to film. I've had my coffee and I've got my sunscreen on, so let's just get this started. Alright, the first thing that I want to tackle are the Hoyas and Orchids. I do use this orchid fertilizer. I fertilize them every week or every 2 weeks. So no specific brand here. I just use a random one I bought online. I've been using this for a while. This may not be available in your area. And I usually just eyeball it. You should probably read the instruction and do some measurements, but I kind of eyeball. In nature, like you don't get a set amount of nutrients on a schedule. So I just kind of use my feelings, but if you want to be that person that wants to measure everything, go for it. Now this is Agromore 2020, so this is a balanced fertilizer. For some other types of plants, I use a heavier nitrogen fertilizer, the higher N ratio. So I just use a little bit, and I use a bit of fungicide here. It can be any brand, but I use diethane. It could also be anthracol. You don't really have to, but for me, the orchids tend to get a lot of fungal infections and things like that. And this really helps prevent them from getting infected. And also some of the Hoyas are not as tolerant to overwatering and stuff, so they may get a bit of rot in the root system. So just use a little bit, not too much. And again, I don't use this every single week. Neem oil also have excellent antimicrobial properties, but that's another video for another day, because for neem oil, it's also pest control, and you do want to apply it in the evening for sure, unlike this one. Give this a very, very good shake, vigorous shake. And for the orchids, you want to target everything, the roots, the leaves, the stem, if they have any stem on them. Now we've got Hoyas all over this area, but we kind of know where they are, so we're just gonna go and target them. This is a beautiful Hoya carnosa, Crimson Princess, and I think Crimson Queen all in one. And there's one Hoya all the way up there, the Hoya macrophylla, that we have to water both from downstairs and above. It's actually a large plant, and it keeps flowering for me, and it's put out leaves after leaves, but it is not living in a pot, so it is got exposed media, so they dry out super fast. This is why I want to soak the media from the lower floor and also the higher floors. There's a Dischidia that lives under it, a little bit shaded by it. Dischidias are Hoyas relatives, so I kind of spray them down at the same time. Although my Dischidias haven't really flowered for me, Dischidias are not very generous with their flowering. Alright, we're almost out. We're gonna reload and then I'll meet you outside. There's a few orchids and some Hoyas out here to water. This one here are dendrobiums and they require some full sun. This here is my succulent corner. It rains every day now, it's a rainy season. I have slow release fertilizer in them, but ideally, if it's not rainy season, I would do foliar spray on them at least once every 2 to 3 weeks or so. But again, I don't want to get them wet because I know that they've been rained on yesterday. But this is my succulent collection. And yes, we do want to avoid watering them. Wow, this Hoya here is incredibly dry. Look at how dry that media is. And you can also see the leaves are actually very skinny. Maybe this is time to repot this Hoya. But here's the thing with Hoyas. If you want to have them bloom, try not to repot them, keep them in very tight pots. But if you want more leaves, then you should definitely repot them. I'm going to give this a generous watering. Some PV calyx. And below here some ovovada. This is my upstairs balcony, but it is actually incredibly narrow here. So I'm gonna be filming using my handheld phone instead for this. But a lot of my nicer Hoyas actually live along this balcony. Now this is the Hoya wayerii variegata, and as you can see, it is still pretty wet. I can tell by the color of the potting media, so I'm just gonna spray the leaves just a little bit, and that's it for this one. Now, if I'm not wrong, this is the Hoya gracile, and it is flowering. Look at that bloom over there in the center of the screen. But this has been a very rewarding Hoya, very inexpensive, fast growing, but it is very thirsty, so I'm gonna give it a very generous drink. It's a Platycerium ridleyi. Why not? I think it can handle some orchid fertilizer and some fungicide. And here we've got more Hoyas. I think that's a wayerii. I don't know the names of most of my Hoyas. I'm sorry about that. I really don't. But this one has really, really gorgeous leaves. Look at the outer rim that's black in color. And of course that the variegated one you see in the center of the screen, that is the, I forgot the name. It's the Heuschkeliana variegata. It's gotten very big. I should probably propagate it and turn it into many. That's the Hoya sunrise. I think that's the Rosita or the Bertonii. Yeah, they love a lot of light. That's the Macrophylla. That is variegated on the inside. I think it's pot of gold. Yeah, I don't know if you remember when I moved into this house, a lot of the Hoyas died off. They're not doing well, but now they're coming back to life. We're getting the care down. Look at how beautifully it's framing that table over there. And this beautiful Hoya, it trailed so long. It is actually trying to propagate it. Imagine a nice full pot of this. And each of these rows of leaves can give me a full new plant. So I'm gonna get to it at some point. It's my living area. We're gonna pick out some plants here. These 2 air plants will have to be watered separately. 3. And then here we've got more Hoyas. So I'm gonna spray these outside so we don't make a mess of the living room. This one's also a Hoya. Of course, gonna take down other plants with it. Let go, let go. All right. Yeah, here's the thing with Hoyas, that they might take the whole plant shelf down along with it. Let go, come on. Oh my God, now I'm stuck, I can't unstuck myself. Okay, oh, I lost a leaf, but well. This is still not letting go. I'm going to leave this Hoya out here to dry before I put it back into the bookshelf. Now for the tillandsias, I have just a little drizzle of the well-balanced fertilizer in here. And then I'm going to just add like tap water over it. All right, now it's mixed itself up quite well. And then, oh, this is smaller than I thought. Okay, I'm just gonna use a smaller one first. You're gonna dunk it in here. I might do this with a bigger vessel for the others because apparently this is like way too big for it. So you want to leave it here. You see it going bloop, 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 bloop in there. It's like the trichomes, which is their furry, fuzzy hair on the leaves. It's absorbing all that water. But as you can see, there's still some bubble particles here. So you want to let it soak entirely and just wait. Sometimes you can leave it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And then when you're done, you take it out. And then you really want to wring it dry. If you want to use a paper towel, you can, like just gently tap it in. But you really want to get it dry, because if water pools inside of this tillandsia in the middle here and don't dry up in a timely fashion, it will rot the plant. You will kill it. But it does require that deep watering. And this is back outside. The sensible thing to do also, in my case, during tillandsia watering day, I would put them outside. The airflow here is quite excellent and it's getting really good light, but also indirect light. Do not give them direct sunlight. So this is going to dry out in no time. In like 15 minutes, this is probably going to be bone dry. This is how we want to keep our air plants. I'm going to finish up with the rest of them and I'm going to leave them all out here for a few minutes. And now for the rest of the plants in this green wall, I just kind of go to town, I hose them down, although there are some areas that I spray more liberally than others. And I want to make sure to get each of these individual pots wet. And then there's a little hook here. I'm going to bring this hose upstairs using this contraption. So yeah, from up here, I'll just pull this rope up with the hose. Because I've dropped this so many times before, it is a much better idea to use that method. From up here, I'm going to start spraying down using a jet stream. Some aglaonemas, they hate water. I overwater all of my aglaonemas all the time. And here, this is my anthurium corner. They're not in good shape because they all need repotting, and some of them were recently repotted into a larger size, and they really hate water. This is a sign of overwatering when you see crisping at the edge of the leaves with a bit of yellow line. And then as you can see here, it is still a little bit moist below, so I'm just gonna only use a little bit. Water. This is the problem with all my anthuriums. They quickly overgrow their space and then they don't do so well because they are strapped for root space. This is a dark phoenix. It's actually doing quite okay. Look at all those roots. So with this anthurium corner, I literally don't water them very generously because they don't need a ton of water, and I've in my experience, I've rotted so many anthuriums. This Nepenthes, it's a very thirsty plant. It is very thirsty. I give it a generous watering and it still will get bone dry by tomorrow. Alocasias, I water them lightly every day. This aglaonema, Lotus Delight, it's got holes on the side of the pots. So I water it generously because it does dry out very fast between watering. These aglaonemas, they don't have a lot of leaves because I'm just propagating them, so I don't want to douse them with too much water. I mean, you kind of have a feel of where everything is and how much to give water to them. This one was recently out of a water propagation, so I can water it a bit more. Now this one here, this is a McDowell. It's living in terracotta pot. I actually top dress it with moss. There's aeroid potting media, and it is a lot of leaves, and it is in a small tight pot. So I'm gonna water this very, very generously. It will use up all that water because terracotta pots dry up twice faster than your plastic pots. You know what, guys? It was sunny a minute ago, but now it's like cloudy and here's thunderstorms around the horizon. So we do water this with a hose, all of the collection, but I might do it next week. Hopefully it's a sunny day next week because it's ridiculous if I watered this now and it rained on us. So we're gonna end this outside part right here and pick it up next week.
Did you know that rainwater is extremely good for plants? It contains nitrogen, which promotes leaf growth, and oxygen, which the roots love. Rainwater also unlocks nutrients and minerals present in the soil, readying them for the roots to absorb. Finally, it is free of charge, conserves water from our supply, and contains no minerals and chemicals that are otherwise found in our tap water.
It's actually been 2 months, so we're gonna check out the plants outside. They are a little bit bigger than when we left it in the last clip. Here's everyone. Everyone's a little bit overgrown at this point. I remember this was still a baby when I left, and that Persian shield as well. It's all gotten a little bit bigger. I was actually away for a month in China and in Thailand, so my caretaker did a very good job taking care of these plants, and of course, there's those balcony plants. But back to today's topic, it's worth mentioning, as you can see here, there's an overcast, so it might actually rain a little bit later. Now, keeping this in mind, normally I would actually have skipped watering the plants here entirely, especially the succulent section. These are actually Nepenthes. This came from the same plant. As you can see, they're sitting in a bit of water. And this is good for them. This is rainwater, and they're living in full sun. Look at these beautiful pictures that is put out. This is a Viking. So some of my Nepenthes here, I just left it out in full sun and full rain, and they're doing just fantastic here. And these succulents, as you can see, they're all in very, very gritty succulent mix, and they're also in terracotta or concrete pots. So they can withstand watering daily. They have not run on me so far. If you watch my succulent unboxing, this one was also in there about 3 months ago, and it is doing quite well. It's responding well in my environment. So they actually love full sun, in case you've missed out on cacti care. Some succulents like bright indirect light, but a lot of these do require that full blasting sun, and they just water it every, I don't know, week or so. But daily rain is actually okay for it. Ooh, something fell on me. Something fell on me. Man, that was creepy. It's really, really painful. I think something jumped on me, maybe like one of those little lizards. And I don't know where it went. I hope it's not in my shirt or something. It's really weird. So let me show you, I have a hose here. I normally just water everything down generously, especially if the weather is like super clear sky, hot, like with full sun or direct sunlight. But everything here, as you can see, it's still like everything is moist, and I don't really want to overwater the plants at this point, so I'm gonna skip out. But I want you to just picture, just hosing everything down, getting everything wet, the leaves, the stems, the shoots, and the soil. Normally I would do that, and this is my favorite part, because when you, in the front porch here, you literally can water them indiscriminately because they all get dried up really fast. They all require daily watering. So this is one of my more peaceful watering regime out here. It's not like inside where I do have to water everything, carefully. I need to make sure I don't overwater certain pots on my vertical wall. But the front lawn is just so easy, just basically holds everything. In fact, actually that's very dry. I'm going to maybe hose this area down, especially these. This is my monstera, and these are the roots. And I really love, whenever I can, to get all these roots wet. So this is probably the only section that I would water today. Actually, this section here do need a bit of watering now and then, because it's an area that's shaded from rain, Diefenbach. But this is like, the reason I place these plants here is because they don't really require a lot of water. They are a little bit, what do you call it? They were overwatered before, so I placed them away from the rain in here. It's a strategic placement, and I just saw this. I need to tell my guy. By the way, the girls have now moved on to my mom's place. They are now working for my mom, and now I have a gardener, a new guy. And I don't like it when they place plants underneath other plants. They should be placed like this. And this as well, this was like living under all these other plants. It's gotta move, because this is not getting any light. So I don't know why, it's like a very, very common thing, a common mistake. The girls do it too. They just love to chuck plants under other plants, and then they get forgotten and they get rotten because they don't get any light. Now this is a Ficus elastica, or a rubber tree that actually they can live in full sun, but because they grew indoors and then I suddenly just chucked them outside, they burnt up a little bit. But the new leaves are a little bit stronger. They can now withstand full sun. Certosperma, they love water. I go to town with it. In fact, I should probably put a little bit of a water, a little bit of a bowl underneath it so that it can drink up the water. And here, for my caladiums, and also these are still alive. These are my Sarracenia. I think you'll see, yeah, the larger ones are over here. These are my Sarracenias. Gorgeous, look at that. So these are pitcher plants. They love full sun and full rain. And I just saw this. This has to go, hang on, the water has to go. Because I saw slow release fertilizer in here. I think somehow, maybe the gardener put it there. Yeah, I'm gonna take it out, take out. They don't like nutrient. As a carnivorous plant, they need to be in very, very nutrient poor media. Sorry, I'm not like filming very well because I'm like filming and doing chores at the same time. But this is their flower, in case you're curious. They have really, really interesting flowers. So I've basically separated this plant from one plant into many just by root division, and they're all doing well. And there's some over here. This one might be getting too much shade. Let me see, too much shade. Let me move you out to the open air. There you go. Yeah. So they love the rainwater. The rainwater will be very good for them because tap water contains some kind of particles that may not be so beneficial for them. Okay, there. So again, everything is still a little bit moist, but I'm going to go over once. And that for sure, I need to fill that with water. They don't want to be dried out. But by the way, there are certain days, like during the dry season, or if it did not rain yesterday, most of these would actually be a little bit dry. So they're still moist. They're still moist now. And it's not, again, it's not sunny today. This is beautiful. So this was completely eaten up by caterpillars. And then all these new growth, all this new vine has appeared. This is actually a very fragrant jasmine, a variegated jasmine, and all these new growth points have appeared. I was really worried about losing it, but I guess this is very resilient. ZZ plant hates water. I try to not water this at all. And for bromeliads, actually, this is the name's gonna be on the screen. This is a beautiful bromeliad. I got it as a single plant with 2 pups, and now it's formed this huge clump. So with them, I try not to water the soil. You don't really, I mean, you can keep it slightly moist now and then, but you water bromeliads into their mouth. So they basically drink water from here, from the mouth. And you sometimes want to fertilize it a bit, add some nutrients so they can actually absorb it. And then what I like to do sometimes from up here is to water the plants below from above. It's just something that makes me feel really good. Again, these guys are still moist. They didn't need the watering, but I'm giving it a go to show you. And really, really enjoy this part when you can just indiscriminately hose everything out. And yeah, all these babies, technically I need 2 hands to water them because I can pick it up with one hand and water with the other, but I'm kind of filming now, so it's not super helpful. And with this water propagates, I just fill it up to the brim every day. And this Beeliad's high from our video, it's put out a new leaf. Remember this from our last video? This might be a bit dark for it today. It's very cloudy, so this is probably getting only like medium indirect light today. But yeah, this is actually very dry. My gardener maybe forgot to top up the water for a while. So I'm gonna finish up this section off screen. This is a Nepenthes that I'm doing a video on. I'm gonna finish this section up on my own because I do need 2 hands. But just to show you, this is how I kind of go through every one. And this is like facing the wrong way. Again, this should be facing outside. There. Got a bit of plants up there to water. Now, the trailing plants, don't judge me for them. They're kind of bare right now. I'm about to propagate and make it more lush and full. I've been meaning to do that. Yeah, the plants up there, we need to give them a trim, but they need to be more lush. And by the way, there's a balcony there. We're gonna go up in a minute. We're gonna water some plants. Although I must say that these trailing plants, we water them around once every 3, 4, 5 days because they don't take as much water as the ones in the backyard or in the front. So when you are dealing with indoor plants, keep in mind that the watering tend to be a lot less frequent because they drink up water a lot less indoors. This is probably because of slightly lower light and less airflow and just less photosynthesis in general. Now I want to bring your attention to these Platyceriums. Now, if you watch my Platycerium video, you'll know that you're actually supposed to take these down and really soak them in water. This moss that they're grown in should soak up water completely in between watering, whether that's like every 3 days, 4 days, or a week or whatever. But honestly, I'm not gonna do that because I don't have the time and the energy to do it. So we're gonna try to water it as best as we can because as you can see here, the one in the middle, this is actually very dark. The moss is actually nice and wet. In fact, it might even be a little bit over watered. If you look at the leaf here, the crisping with a bit of yellow line on that frond, that's a sign of overwatering. So I may have to tell my gardener to slow down with this one because we do have a wick system up there. So they do drink water naturally. And this one is doing too good of a job drinking that water. But the other two, they're not really drinking. Look at the difference between the color of the moss. That one is actually bone dry. All right, so this is what it looks like from up here. We do have a balcony and the balcony has a ledge to prevent plants from falling down. And these are all the top of the pots up here. This is very, very behind the scenes. Not many people get to see this. But as you can see, this is a wick system. So I just put a cup of water here, and this is a towel that I cut it because the towels, like the terry cloth, actually has high absorbency. So this is wicking the water all the way down, and that's touching the, pardon the mess there down below. It's, the wick is hitting the moss right on top, so that's bringing water to the plant. And again, this particular one, the one in the middle, is doing too good of a job. However, this one here, it's wicking only to the certain part of the plant, and it's not really, I don't know, it's not really distributed evenly throughout the whole thing. I mean, technically, again, we're supposed to dunk this whole thing in water once in a while, but I have this thing. This is a watering globe. Now, what you can do in such case, because some part of the sphagnum moss is completely dry, is that you want to water it very slowly. Very, very slowly. This way that the moss has a time to absorb the water and distribute it evenly throughout the plant. So I might like move around a bit, find different spots to kind of stab this in. This is a process that will take maybe 5 to 10 minutes every week. So give me time. Yeah, I'm gonna just keep stabbing this. And I might also, from below, spray down the bottom part of the moss. This is so that the bottom part will also absorb. We want this whole moss to be evenly moist because the root system of the Staghorn fern, of the Platycerium, is actually quite, what do you call it? It's quite prolific actually in there. So we do need to keep it moist. If there are parts that are constantly dry, forever dry, this Platycerium will not thrive. See, I'm like stabbing this all the way in there. I'm stabbing this globe pretty deep into the plant, letting it drink it up at its own pace. All right, there you go, that's done. I might actually wait a few minutes and then give it another go, especially if the bottom part hasn't been soaked up yet. And I need to manage this at some point. This has actually become a little bit unruly. As I said earlier, I am going to be making a more lush pots of these trailing plants and let them trail down quite a bit. This is like about 15 minutes later. That is still very, very dry, that Staghorn fern. So I'm gonna also climb up here and give it a spritz to help it absorb that moisture. Now I want to do this and then wait another few minutes and just keep doing it until until it's as wet as possible all the way deep inside the moss. Of course, this is a very tedious process, and I might once more use another globe of water from up there just to really entirely soak it. And I might actually put a bucket down below. It's a good idea to collect that excess water that's dripping down. I mean, technically, if you are growing Staghorn ferns, try to take it down and give it a nice soak. That is really how they like it. Maybe do it every with Platyceriums, you want to give it a drying out period, maybe like a day or two, and then you want to soak it entirely. This is actually not doing extremely well. I mean, it's looking beautiful now, but it actually needs to be soaked once in a while. Last but not least, we have this room here. This is also kind of an emergency area, but it's also for my more succulent like plants. There's some nepenthes being propagated in here, so let's see how they go. So this is an area that gets air conditioning and also bright indirect light. As you can see, that window is giving it really good light. But actually, I turned off some of the lights here, so it's looking a little bit bleak and dark. But normally I keep the light on, but you see that flickering in the background. That's gonna get worse if I turn all the lights on. It's just different frame rate between the light and also what this camera is capturing. So for this, I just give it a gentle watering every day. It is an air-conditioned room, so this is getting, this is gonna be a bit dry, faster than the other areas. So when people ask me like how often they should water their plants, it really depends. You just look at my environment. Within this video alone, you see plants that are hosed down every single day, some plants that are given water like every once a week. Even within the same species, it depends on where you grow them. You water them differently. And also, of course, based on the weather, if it's like super hot out, you definitely want to give it a bit more of a watering than if it's like a nice and cloudy day. There's no real formula. If somebody ask you, like, this is I think a little bit overwatered because it's getting very low light, so I think, if I'm not wrong, every time I check on this plant it is always wet, but it's always forgiving me. This is a philodendron hederaceum, and this is also a forgiving plant. It's on my plant shelf. This is the Epischia. So this one, this Hoya, is up here, and I really like how it's perching off the shelf over here. This needs watering every day because it's in terracotta pot, and also like a very airy media here. So with a setup like this, because I top dress it with a bit of moss, I water it, wait a little bit, and then let it absorb and then water it again. So different kind of potting media have different techniques required to water them. So pay attention to the plant, it'll tell you. And this one probably need a lot more water. I need to refill this, but this Peperomia obtusifolia is such a big pot and there's so many leaves that I can water them lightly every day. But these guys, they don't like water generally. But I know that this is a very overgrown inside its pot. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. It is an honor to have you watch it all the way to the very end. I enjoy making these kinds of videos and sharing this with the world. And for my Patreon and also my YouTube members, thank you so much for financially supporting the channel. For the rest of you, it would really help me out a lot if you would comment, like, and subscribe this channel. It will really boost the algorithm quite a lot. I guess I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.